This is HBR News number 429, Spider-Man Butchers Spanish Culture. Would you like some yeast with your beer? Where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. My name is Brian, I am your host, and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Mike J, Hannah Wallen, and Dr. Randomcam. We have a great show lined up for you guys this week, and I know that we've done things a little bit different, but yesterday was Halloween, and Allison and Karen had something in mind for that, so we're moving the new show this week, just this week, to Wednesday. Let us know if you how you feel about that. I'm glad that we were able to do this, especially because it was kind of last minute and I had to move it ahead an hour, but meaning do it a little earlier because I have to pick up the wife today, and so it's just a mess, but I made it work. So anyway, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the shows. So we're going to be discussing Tinder, which is basically adding a friend network to their user base, or at least an option. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 video game, which released this week, apparently butchers the Spanish language to be more inclusive. Stream-thot Amouranth tops Belle Delphine's bathwater and competes with Bud Light at the same time. That's quite the business move, and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time, and be sure to join us afterwards for the patron only show. So okay, so you guys probably, just to set this up a little bit, you probably heard of, I gotta put the website on display here. You probably heard about this whole thing with South Park, and they made this show, or this movie, I don't know what you call it, it's like a special, where they call the Panderverse or something, and everyone is gushing about it, talking about it, and I watched it not yesterday, I think it was, the day before. And so, there's all this talk about how revolutionary this is, and well, people have opinions. However, South Park is distributed through Paramount Plus, and the Paramount CEO is pledging to go down with the diversity ship. So DIE all the way. And so we're going to look at this article from Breitbart and probably talk a little bit about the South Park episode, or the South Park special, Into the Panderverse, I think it's called. And also other things around it, like Gina Carano's comments and how that went. And then now there's also rumors about two board members potentially starting a hostile takeover of Disney Corporation because they dislike the direction it's going in. So I don't know. Sounds like it could be a fun conversation, totally up my alley. So please consider joining us in the patron show if that is of interest to you. But we also talk about lots of fun things in the patron show, and it's never really nailed down. It could go anywhere. It could go, and who knows what will happen. We could end up having a completely separate conversation.
We will have at least one chick, and she'll be a little bit gay.
Yeah, and lame. Don't forget lame.
Hannah's not lame.
No,
no.
Not lame.
She's allergic to a lot of things, but she's not technically lame.
Sometimes I am.
Make it real, make it gay, make it lame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm getting old, right?
I have some thoughts on the South Park thing. I won't share them here, but we will talk about them in the patron show. So if you would like to join us, you have to become a Badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, and you'll be able to consume all the additional content and talk with the patrons there and help with, just be a part of the community. Give us this, be a part of our little refuge from all of the insanity going on in the world around us. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we have been yeeted from the mainstream internet, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com and follow us there. All right, well, with all that out of the way, I don't know if the fundraiser is still going. I hope so, because I'd like to be able to pay the rent, but you can check it out. Go to feedthebadger.com/support. That would be really nice. And maybe like some of the gray hairs that are coming in won't come in. So, all right. Well, anyway, with all that out of the way, we're gonna get into the stories, and we're gonna start with Tinder. So I find this is an interesting topic to get into. Go ahead, Mike J. Tell us about Tinder. What's going on with Tinder?
Now there are two very interesting ways you can kind of take the story. So we'll go at it from like the headline. Let's not bury the lead here real quick. So the popular dating app Tinder has debuted a new feature, and it is not free from controversy. Tinder's new feature, dubbed Tinder Social, offers users of the app to form a group with their friends who also use the app to locate like-minded individuals and friend groups. The big issue here arose when it was noted that, for the first time in the app's history, you can now see which friends and family members, linked through the Facebook Friends system, are on Tinder. The oversight on Tinder's part is rather odd, seeing as the company has always valued the privacy of its users above all else. If you are a Tinder user and you're worried about this happening to you, you probably shouldn't be, though. The feature required users to opt in, and as an early beta feature, it was only usable for the Australian market, so odds are if you're using Tinder, this isn't going to affect you. Tinder is currently still working on this feature.
The problem is, whenever there are dating sites, there are perverts, from the most benevolent and even naive kind of pervert to the very worst kind of pervert. If someone's going to the internet for the specific purpose of perving, they're going to go to places like Tinder. So, and you got these other people on Tinder looking for love. It's like walking the back streets of Soho, hoping you'll find a nice, sweet partner for kisses and TLC. It might not quite work out like you'd hoped. Look, I love the internet as much as anyone else, but there are some things it's just not good for, and one of them is matchmaking. I mean, the deliberated process of matchmaking. You can meet people on the internet just fine, but it's usually through a shared interest like we have here, or like music or gaming, or maybe even politics. Whatever it is, it's a good place to start, and it's what the internet is good at, bringing the most distant of people together over a shared interest. But with stuff like Tinder, there is no shared interest among its clientele other than compatibility with its other clientele. You have to find the shared interest by yourselves as a secondary sort of side quest to the main objective of, sex, basically. And that, I don't know, that seems to be the wrong way around, or at least the screwy way around. Aside from anything else, I know of who met on a dating site and stayed together for long enough to even tell that story. The story of how I met your mother could be a very long and tangential story, one you could make a rather overrated sitcom about. But you could bet your ass it didn't start with "we met on Tinder." It doesn't happen. Horror stories where kids end up getting diddled and whatnot are probably more common than wholesome love stories ending in happily ever after. So you can see why people are perturbed by the idea that locations can be just out there, and paedophile rings are actually getting facilitated by the developing technology of these sites of these apps. But it's just a business. Is just a niche in the market, and something has to fill that niche. The best advice for the individual is to steer clear of Tinder and meet people as organically as possible. If everyone goes out and touches grass and bonds over their favorite kind of grass, then you can do that, and Tinder will be left with nothing but perverts trying to perv on other perverts, and that'll be hilarious to watch. So everyone wins. It's good advice, and you can have it for free here on Badger Radio.
Allergic to grass.
Oh, God damn it, Hannah.
Twice, actually. Seriously.
Come over to my place. Our backyard's nothing but AstroTurf. You can roll around
there you
and
go.
shit.
See, there you go. They mowed the lawn today, so
Oh.
I'm yeah, a little bit snotty, than usual. But no, this is gonna last about 5 minutes before it changes in a way that's gonna piss everybody off. It'll either be that you can exclude people, and then people will find out and they'll be like, "Why did you exclude me from finding out you were on Tinder?" Or worse, it's going to be the whole opt-in thing is going to be quietly taken away, and everybody will be able to see everybody who is on Tinder based on their friends list, and then they're going to find out who's cheating on their partner, and who's a hooker on the side, who's basically like
who's using it for his
and
work.
don't tell me there's not hookers on Tinder. Like, I probably half the people on Tinder are hookers. So and then there's also men on Tinder too. But seriously though, I see disaster for this, and it's going to end up being a problem for people that are using Tinder, and then on top of that, the few people that are actually on there to date, the few women that are actually on there to date, are going to find another problem. And this is one, like, I was totally unaware of this when I started dating. And then I got slapped in the face with it really, really hard by my friend group and the other friend group. And that is, if you date outside your friend group, and like if you date inside your friend group, there's like a hierarchy of which guys can ask which girls out, and so on and everything. And then if you date outside your friend group, you are grifting. Like you're evil, and the girls in the other friend group will kill you. Like, really. So at least within your social environment, it was doable when your social environment was your school, your hometown, your university, for the people that date at the workplace, not the best idea, but basically your local physical environment. And you could meet people when you went other places that had common interests with you, because they were at a place that you traveled to be at, and date, and it wasn't a problem because you're the guy that has the girlfriend from out of town. Well, the girls from in town aren't going to go hunt her down, right? But now the internet is an environment, and you're accessible to people all over the world. And so Tinder is going to end up becoming a bit of a mosh pit until they handle that. Because women do get territorial, even over guys they're not dating. Well, this guy's not good enough to ask me out because I'm at the top of my, my pecking order in my friend group. But by God, that woman better not hook him, because that's he's ours, and that's gonna happen, and that's gonna be ugly, and there's gonna be flaming, and there's gonna be a lot of abuse, a lot of allegations, and Tinder's not gonna know what hit him.
Yep. I think
I want
there's
to kind
gonna
of
be.
expand.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Mike. No, it's okay.
I want to kind of expand on Mike's point a bit. Like, please do not use Tinder to make friends.
Yeah.
Go, as it were, go touch grass. Like this heavily reminds me of this one thing I saw. It was a post on Twitter's. I've been thinking a lot about what if IRL podcasts, like you get a few friends together, but there's no mics, nothing is recorded, and you just have a free-form discussion, and like you could even have food and drinks and like maybe go somewhere fun. Has anyone ever done this before? It's like, yeah, a tech bro just discovered hanging out.
Yeah, right.
And
go ahead.
And that's really how it should be done. But on a level even further than that, making friends on Tinder is horrible because people try to shove their entire life's work into the little bio they give you. And I think part of the fun thing about meeting new people and making friends is you don't know every last thing about them. You don't know their political party. You don't know whether they smoke or drink. You don't know who their parents are. You don't know where they're from. You don't have all these little details that you could just in one quick scan go, oh, I'm gonna fucking hate this person, swipe the other way. like some of my best friends, we have pretty large differences, be they ideological or political or worldview. But because we became friends before these issues were brought up, they weren't deal breakers. They weren't like, I didn't just see that and instantly go, well, shit, this person's not going to be any good for me. Skip.
Mm-hmm.
And call me old-fashioned, but I think that's the way it should be.
Well, I am all the way here for it, because I think what will happen is you're going to really see how nasty women can get, because that's what it's going to do. Like the interrelational aggression is going to get ramped up, because what you're going to see, and unfortunately men that are on Twitter, or Tinder rather, should get off of Tinder, because they're going to use, you're going to see Whisper. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Twitter's okay, but get off of Tinder. But what you're gonna see is, I think, you're gonna see Whisper networks. You're gonna see clicks. You're gonna see basically there are going to be groups of women that are going to play matchmaker, that are going to vet men for their friends, that are going to dig into potential dates, backgrounds, and histories, and all that. So and they're going to use, it's just going to create a whole new level of stalking. And I think that you just kind of have to let that be known, so that people know that this is like what will happen. And this is, and I think you're just going to see a really dark side of women that people don't know about. And also, because I think it's mostly women that are going to do this stuff. I think that any man that has like his head on straight probably won't put all of his personal shit online. I mean, I would hope not. But women feel like they can just do that because they live in a consequence-free environment where they can just be like, oh, I'm on my period and this is my mood, and I shouldn't have to work, whatever it is, right? You should be lucky to have my presence. That attitude is gonna show itself. That entitlement is gonna be on display because there's no consequences for it. So we're gonna see what women are really like when left to their own devices. And I know it sounds like I'm just throwing around generalizations, but just wait.
Nope, you're totally right.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it now. Honestly, like, when you're a nerd girl in the 80s, right? You see this happen firsthand. And there's women can get very ugly. Girls can get very ugly. And I've seen some ugliness that is unparalleled. They're more ugly toward guys, but if you hang out with the guys that are 2 rungs below the bottom rung of the social ladder, and you give them the time of day, and you give the girls that are on the bottom rung of the social ladder the time of day, the girls that are above those 2 areas will treat you like the guys on the bottom rung, on the two levels down. And it's interesting to watch. Now, there are gals that are perfectly nice. Most of the gals I went to school with were perfectly nice and didn't do this shit. Mm-hmm. The ones that did, we have an episode where my opener was about one of those girls, and she manipulated a fight between my brother and a guy that we were quote unquote not dating, which means we were dating but we weren't admitting it, because neither one of us thought it was appropriate. And so we just spent all of our time together, and neither one of us was allowed to go out with anybody else, but that was not dating, right? Like that's how that went. But in any case, that was I couldn't hang out with him after that at all. Like, totally destroyed our friendship, any chance at a relationship, anything, by manipulating the situation in a way that caused us to get into a fight. And it was at a time when this is actually one of the reasons I went to a psychiatrist to try to get my temper under control. Because I was still an in-your-face kind of bitch when it came to temper. And ended up getting pushed, just pushed, not hit. Like the guy never hit me. He would push, and and then I would end up, running into something, and I always started it. Right, I always was in his face first, and I always cornered him. And until I figured out you can't do that with somebody that's been beaten up a lot, that's how that went, right? But in any case, she manipulated that into a situation where he did it in public. And I, in our community, in our family, in our culture, like our cultural heritage and everything, my brother was honor bound to beat that guy up, and he did it, and it was awful for all of us. And she did it for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
No grudge. No, I did something to her and she was mad at me, or he did something to her and she was mad at him. No, nothing. No dislike. Just, look, there's a vulnerability. I'm going to exploit it. Here you go. That's the ugly side of women. The woman who did the 7 years in hell perpetration, the false accuser, didn't care about her kid at all. Never cared about the kid. She wanted the child support, but even that wasn't a big deal because she was a drug dealer. She wasn't when the marriage was still going, but once they were divorced, she didn't have anything to stop her. She became a drug dealer. And she got more money coming in from that than he could ever pay in child support on the kind of income he was going to make. But she was unhappy that it looked bad, that her kid was, taken away from her and put into protective custody with the father. And that was why she started making false allegations. And she started spreading around town that he was sexually violent and tried to accuse family members of child molestation and all kinds of things that never happened. She made up all kinds of things that never happened, and she pushed and dedicated every minute of every day to this shit, where she wasn't dedicating time to using or earning. And that was her whole life for like 8 years, was pestering this guy because she was embarrassed. That's how ugly women can get.
Yeah.
She was going to try to put him in jail for the rest of his life, put her kid back into a situation of abuse with the second husband that was beating her, and drag everybody that she knew, everybody that he knew, every police department within a 20-mile radius, 2 county court systems, and every department, every government department she could get involved into this because she was embarrassed for a minute.
Yeah, very true. I think I think that this is really just gonna service the most toxic parts of female nature. So I think we're gonna see it, and maybe it'll be helpful. Maybe it'll be helpful for people to see. So all right, I got a super chow that I'm going to highlight that came through. Unfortunately, it didn't show up in on the chat because my Discord web browser wasn't open, so that's my bad on that. And November gives us $5. Thank you, November. And he says, "Happy November, whether you are doing NNN or NNN, good luck." So I imagine NNN means 2 different things, so we list both. So yeah, there you go. Thank you, November, for the $5 and the donation. And then I also have a $10 Rumble rant from Blaze Kaiser. Thank you, Blaze Kaiser, so much. He says, "I see Badger Chan, I see Rumble Chan, and the goddess Vivian James, but still no Like Chan. How will I know to press the like button?" I just made a Like Chan VTuber, and I will be adding her to the screen if I'm able. So you will see it. But thank you so much for that, Blave Kaiser. And yeah, you'll see her. She's coming back. Senior Sticks gave us a super chat for $2 and says, Hannah, given female nature, can the purge work? I don't know what you mean by that.
You know what's going to happen in a situation like that? I think I talked about this when we talked about defunding the police. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Our society puts the protector role on all guys, whether they are big and strong and smart and fast and agile and trained fighters and they really know what they're doing, or whether they're some skinny little, really nerdy, never learned to fight, never been violent, really pacifistic, right? Maybe even not very bright, or super bright and just smart enough to hate violence, kind of guy. Whether they're straight or gay, doesn't matter. If a woman is in trouble and the guys in the area don't do anything about it, then they get condemned. And boys are raised from early childhood with that admonition. Ladies first, don't hit girls, don't tolerate other guys hitting girls, protect girls. I've hung out with guys who were, the whole queer as a $3 bill is not enough. Like, queer as a $3 bill with a unicorn dragon on it that talks, right? That queer, and still been super protective of women. Like, women are not even a part of their lives, but they've been trained to engage in the type of chivalry you think of as romantic and modern and so on, which isn't what chivalry really was all about, but okay. And I think that what would end up happening is a lot of guys would get killed protecting the women around them. And the women would be totally ungrateful. There would be a handful of women who would join in the fighting. There would be like a handful of women who would be like the tough women in zombie TV shows and movies and everything that turn into super, fighter type women that you don't see very often in real life. And the rest of them would be competing for the rest of them will be competing for male protection. And that's what would happen. So you'd end up with like the bad guys, the villains, the people that wanted to break into your house and steal all your stuff. They would count on that. They would know that. They would use that. People who didn't have any morals, people who didn't have any ethics, people who were not raised like you, they would totally exploit your consideration for the women around you. And the people that would survive would be the meanest ones.
Yep.
That's what would happen right now. And we're seeing that in some instances. Unless guys band together and unless women get the hell off their asses and learn how to do something about it instead of whining when something threatening is around or something bad happens to them, then those situations you can have some hope. But yeah, you're not gonna see. I don't know how the movie went. I didn't get to watch the movie, but you're not gonna see a situation where we have a great and livable society come out of that.
Oh yeah,
it's just not gonna happen.
The first movie was like literally one woman fucks everything up.
Yeah.
Like they're in their super mega ultra fortress that like has, bulletproof, bomb-proof everything. And then suddenly there's a guy outside who's like, help, please bring me in. And the women are like, oh, we got to save him. But then that lets in all the bad people.
See, that's why when you build your fortress, you set up an area that's sort of little separate thing where they think they can get to you and they think they can do bad things to you. But actually you can just watch them try and then kick them back out. No,
deploy the snakes.
Yeah. You mean the women? Oh, okay. No, seriously, it's not going to be one woman fucking everything up. It's going to be about 95% of them
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so I got another super chow. Thank you, Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, "Don't miss with Hannah. She's from St. Mary's." All right, thank you for that, and I'm gonna turn it off. I don't know if I got any more. I feel like no, I've got them all. So we're gonna move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Do you think this? I mean, I know you have opinions on Tinder itself, but I'm asking more about what you think. Will there be any social fallout? Am I blowing things out of proportion? Let us know in the comments. I look forward to seeing it. So, all right, next. This is still Mike J again. We're gonna talk about El Hombre Araña. We had the my first experience with Spider-Man was a Spanish language comic that my mom got me when I was very little, and it said on the cover El Hombre Araña, which means the man who is a spider. So that's why I said that. Okay, so let's hear about let's hear about it.
So from overly woke progressive social justice messaging to its fugly female face models, Marvel's new Spider-Man 2 video game just can't catch a break. This time, however, it's the Spanish language version of the game that's making players groan. One clip of the game being played in Spanish, which features dialogue between two characters, has incorrect language gendering. See, for those not in the know, Spanish is a gendered language where objects and persons have either masculine or feminine pronouns. Just how the language rolls. Many users have pointed out that it appears that the Spanish language version of the game attempted to throw that system out the window and implement a gender-neutral version of the language. The issue here is that in attempting to do that, they have radically altered the language, causing it to be difficult for even native speakers to understand.
I often wondered what it would look like when the two biggest culprits of colonialism have what must be the colonial battle to end all battles. Is anything you can say about the British Empire, any ethical complaints you might have, can also be thrown at the Spanish Empire. Many attempts were made at colonization. The Portuguese got Brazil, the Dutch got South Africa, and they got to hang around in Australasia. The French sort of fucked everything up, but got to keep a bunch of small islands. The Belgians fucked up the Congo and buggered off. The Scots fucked up Panama and buggered off. But the English and the Spanish came away with most of the Americas, among other things. Which makes you wonder what the wokerati are going to do when it comes to disputes between the English and the Spanish. Who's colonizing who? Who's decolonizing who? Yeah, you would think they'd side with the Spanish because they're, well, Hispanic. They're Latino or Latino adjacent, I don't know what the difference is, which is officially more oppressed than whites. Consult the color chart, simple as. But apparently not. Case in point, these anti-gamigators, if we can still call them that, these aggros, are still going ahead and anglicizing the Spanish language. And on this occasion, it is magically not racist for them to do that. Because in this one aspect of language, pronouns like el and la, suffixes like a and o, Spanish is more sexist than English because it has more terms based on sex. And it turns out, yes, sexism trumps racism in the pyramid scheme of the progressive stack. You can refer to men as women and women as men, but you cannot refer to objects or occupations as gendered. And we will colonize the shit out of your language until you comply. We don't care if you call us racist. Oh shit. We're sounding more and more like the alt-right that we hate so much. Except, for the most part, no one on the right is trying to colonize anyone's language. They're generally fine with everyone having their own thing and practicing their own thing in their own space and in their own country. Really, it takes oikophobia and its various euphemistic subgenres to give people the righteous indignation to invade other people's languages and purge them of anything that doesn't align with the Western values of feminism and quote unquote equality and quote unquote democracy. And they do it with their conscience intact. So if decolonization means anything, it means purging the world of those who would purge us first. The people we sometimes call leftists. The people who hate their own country so much that they will sail across the world, forcing everyone else to hate it too. And you're doing a good job, boys. Boy, howdy are you. A+ across the board. Everyone hates the West now. And it's not for the reasons you think. It's not because of the spice trade from centuries ago. It's because we've turned into a bunch of deluded snowflake fairies who want to turn everyone into girls. They hate us because we're suicidal. And then they don't want to catch that kind of condition. And I'm not saying the English or the Spanish are any worse than one another. The feminism problem in Spain is, good Lord, they have horror stories that rival our own, all kinds of them. But they're at least willing to stand up for their language when it's attacked by feminists from another country. At least in some capacity, they're willing to defend themselves. The English feminists never do that. They'll take every opportunity to butcher the English language at every insane recommendation, especially from foreigners on any subject other than gendered pronouns, apparently. So this is a win for Spain, in my opinion. Good on you, lads. Don't let these bastards take your voice at any level. Not even one piece of your beautiful, husky, swarthy voices. Let none of them be relinquished to this cult. I will drink to that. Excuse me while I drink.
The people that are in that cult really seem to believe that it's about creating an environment of choices and freedom for them. But if you can't communicate and you can't observe and evaluate objective reality and then communicate about it to other people, you don't have those things because you can't act on them in any way other than individually. And if you piss everybody else off or you are at odds with the way somebody else is acting on it, you can't negotiate a truce or a way to work together, a way to live around each other and stuff like that, because you can't communicate. You can't describe objective reality. If your reality is totally different than the next person's and neither one of them matches the physical reality, you're fucked, right? So screwing around with language has never been about, this type of screwing around with language has never been about creating freedom and choice and non-judgment and so on for people. It's always been about control, and it's always been about a hierarchy of control, and the people who think that they are getting control by demanding that people use quote their pronouns and so on and de-gender their languages and all that, they're being controlled. So if you're hate listening to us and you think that this is a good thing, that this is happening and that languages are being attacked and language is being attacked and gender is being attacked, no, it's not. It's an attack on your ability to recognize what exists around you.
Yep.
And act on what you recognize and communicate with other people about it. That's just an attack on you. Right? And it's not the first time that it's happened. When George Orwell wrote about Newspeak, what he was writing about was an attack on people's ability to communicate anti-government thoughts, independent thoughts, judgment of their own, as opposed to just taking what the government tells them as the correct judgment and so on. This is a repeated thing. When you're not allowed to speak your mind and you're not allowed to describe reality as you see it, you're not allowed to describe what's in front of you. That's that's a way of keeping you from bucking the system, right? It's a way of keeping you from objecting when your rights and freedoms are taken away, when your personal property is taken away, when your friends and family are taken away, and when your life is taken away. And that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
So that's my take on this. Pronouns, everybody thinks are politeness, but they're not.
Mm-mm.
They're not politeness. Just like it's not politeness when somebody, deliberately tips over your drink. If you just say, "Oh, that was an accident. It's okay," and get another one, or when somebody gropes you in public, and you say, "Oh, you didn't mean that. I know that was an accident," and I'm not going to say anything, or it doesn't matter because I'm a guy. Nobody, everybody knows we don't care. That's bullshit. When somebody treads on your territory, steps on your toes, takes from you, forces you to act against your will, compels your speech, and so on, and you say, "Well, it's only polite for me to tolerate that." Well, you'll take your politeness to your grave. There's a time to be rude as fuck.
Yes,
and this
absolutely.
is it.
Yeah.
This is the time to be rude.
Control of language is control of thought, and they know that. So
excuse me, but go the fuck out there and piss everybody off.
Yes, please.
In the words of George Carlin, political correctness is fascism pretending to be manners.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not surprised by this. I knew from the beginning when they started using the word Latinx, I knew that it was going to get to this point. And sure, they don't explicitly say Latinx in the game that I know of, but it's always the smallest steps, because you let it go because it's little. It's a little thing. And next thing you know, you don't even know how to form the words to make the case that you want to make, because there's too many words that you can't remember anymore, or you feel like they're too dangerous to use. Like you can't use them. And this is what it's about. It's about power and control. I know that this is a video game and that's kind of a little thing, but it's not, because this is part of a larger, more important movement. So if you allow this to stand and you don't call it out, especially if you are a Spanish speaker, because this is it's not even just Spanish. When you think about it, a lot of languages are gendered. They have gendered terms in them. Most of the romantic ones, right? So Italian and French, I think, a lot of them, and to some degree English does too, in some ways, right? So you really shouldn't put up with it, absolutely not. And I know that personally, I don't buy any new games unless they come really highly recommended, and there aren't many. But this one you could probably pass on. And that's there's a lot of problems with this game from what I heard. Again, I didn't buy it, no plan on it. But I think that this is important because this is about language, and language is it's the first thing that they attack. It's the first thing they try to change. And it's the purpose of it is to prevent us from being able not just to communicate with each other, because we already are at a point now where we have to we can't just say what we think. We have to prepare to speak by setting a bunch of terms up and defining everything, and then we can start talking. That's not the way human beings are supposed to talk. We're supposed to just say what we think, and then the other person, the listener, is charitable and tries to get to the bottom of it. But we're not. We're operating in a completely different paradigm, and it's hostility. And I think it's ultimately all feminine. It's all feminine because it's all about we got to be thoughtful, we got to be considerate. For example, gender neutral language wouldn't exist if they didn't already set things up by making the claims about non-binary and neo-pronoun identities. If you didn't have that, if the attack on gender itself, if that didn't exist, then there wouldn't be a conversation about gendered language. I mean, we were literally using, I mean, I'm not saying that it's completely changed yet, because there's a lot of people that, they're not caught up or whatever, but like in the 90s, this wouldn't have been an issue. People would have laughed at it. So you can see that because some of this stuff has been allowed, we are at the point now where we have to like argue about whether or not the Spanish language deserves to be the Spanish language. And that will, by extension, go out to any language that's gendered. So that has to be nipped in the bud. All right. Any other thoughts? I got some Super Chow stuff. So I'm going to bring it back to the close-up, and let's put another Badger Chan in there. So Meredith, kind of a big one. Meredith G gives us $5 and says, thank you. HBR News 429. Pronouns are one of the most basic linguistic shortcuts we have in communication. We don't think about how we use them reflexively. The attack on pronouns is just a form of control. It's polite to use someone's name correctly. No one gets to dictate pronouns. The fact that Latinos and Latinas consistently reject the ungendering language is a good thing at the end of the day. Absolutely, but they're going to push it. In little ways. They'll try to find ways around it. And actually, the first people they're going to go after to try to convert them are the Latinas, are the females. Because they're more likely to basically go along with shit like this. Especially if it's like, oh, it's going to like go along to get along, right? So I agree, Meredith, but I mean, I think this is potentially an obstacle. So anyway, okay. So I think that's it. We're going to move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. Let's go ahead. Now, this one is a video. We're going to watch it. This is kind of amazing, okay? I want you guys to listen to this and see what sounds wrong to you. What's missing here. So this is like a game of like, what's missing, okay? Oh, I got to share this with you guys so you guys can see. My bad. Got to do that. So go ahead and join me in here. We're going to play this video. All right, who's not in there yet? Everybody in there?
I'm waiting for my
it's loading up. I see.
Discord to.
Yeah. All right, let's play the video.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cancer has been one of the 2 top leading causes of death in the United States for 75 years. And women with cancer can face unique challenges that make it harder to overcome the disease. Ali Rogan's report is part of our ongoing series, Unequal Treatment.
Each year, 2.3 million women around the world die prematurely from cancer. Those deaths could be prevented by early detection, timely diagnosis, and increased access to optimal treatment. But experts say it doesn't just stop there. A recent global study outlines why systemic changes in healthcare, health policy, and cancer research are all necessary to eliminate the gender-based barriers women fighting cancer face. Dr. Ophira Ginsburg is a senior advisor for clinical research at the National Cancer Institute's Center for Global Health. She's also one of the co-authors of the study. Dr. Ginsburg, thank you so much for joining us. This report compiles testimonies from women from 185 countries around the world. What were some of the common themes and experiences that you and your co-authors picked up on?
One of the key themes that we uncovered, it was kind of hiding in plain sight, was that many people, women included, don't realize what a huge problem cancer is in every country. In fact, cancer ranks in the top 3 causes of premature mortality, that's death under the age of 70, in all but 2 countries. Our overall effort really uncovered that there are power asymmetries in terms of knowledge, decision-making, and economics that influence women's opportunities to understand their risks, to take action to prevent cancer for themselves, to find resources for early detection when cancers are early detectable, and to make it through the care pathway, even if quality treatment is available.
It's interesting to me because one of the most prevalent causes of these disparities is not related to a clinical phenomenon, but rather
here we go.
The word patriarchy. What does that power imbalance mean in terms of medical encounters and cancer outcomes?
First of all, the enemy of, let's say, feminism isn't men, right? It's patriarchy. This is a system. This has to do with structural power imbalances that impact people wherever they are, and also particularly women who are disadvantaged for other reasons, whether it's because of race, ethnicity, migration status, income, etc. So we're talking about overlapping forms of discrimination that compound what's already a problem in terms of patriarchal notions of a woman's role in society. And when you think about caregiving, how many people out there are providing care for family members in their homes? Most of the people providing that caregiving are women, and that's largely unpaid. So what is the value of that to society?
Okay. So
we can't
don't let them get away with that. Don't let them.
Please.
Yeah, don't let them say it's not men, it's patriarchy. All right? Because patriarchy is feminist for men are in charge and they're responsible for everything bad. That's it. It's
including cancer.
It's like saying I don't hate my neighbors, right? I just hate all the people who live around me. Well, those are your neighbors. Patriarchy is men. And when they say women can be part of patriarchy, what they're saying is women can comply with men, right? That's it. That's all they're saying. They're not actually differentiating that men are not their enemies. Don't let them do that. Anytime a feminist says, we don't hate men, we're trying to tear down the patriarchy. Well, no, that means you hate men. You are saying that everything that you don't like about the world is bad because men are in positions of responsibility.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, ask them how they fix patriarchy, and they'll tell you something along the lines of how we should give men less rights, or how we should give men less power, or how we should crack down on these evil men and give women more power over them. There's never been a description of patriarchy that doesn't involve that. It's men having power. Yeah, we don't hate men. We just want men to have less power. Okay. Yeah. Like, how is that not? I mean, I guess you could have that without hate, but it's exactly what hate looks like when it's applied in this rat's nest of political jargon. It's just fucking interview is a good example of that. Why is it that women get cancer? It's, well, you might say it's because of cancer, but you might say it's because of patriarchy, which doesn't mean men. It's not that we're blaming men for cancer, but we absolutely are blaming men for cancer. We're not going to elaborate any further. We're just going to say, well, if something affects women, it can't be because of biology. It must be because of men.
Yeah, I gotta say something.
What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? I don't know. We're going to oppress men. Sorry, not oppress. That's not something that happens to men. We're just going to blame them for everything and adjust all the laws to screw them over. Sorry. Yeah,
gotta say something about the sickness thing too, because like they're talking about cancer, but they say this about every illness, whether it's heart disease, whether it's COVID, whether it's diabetes, whether it's injuries from things that people have done, whether it's being the victim of a crime and so on. And they'll say, oh, it's much harder for women. It's much harder on women. Women suffer more. Women this more. No, fuck no. In every single one of those instances, there is an aspect that men face that women don't, and that is the admonition to be okay no matter what happens. Right? If a woman is not okay, everybody's like, "Oh, you poor thing. What can we do to help you? Here's some money. Here's some help. Here's some sympathy. Here's some compassion. Look, here's something to make you laugh. Let's see if we can make you feel better." Right? If a man is not okay, he gets put in jail, or he gets put in a mental health facility, or he gets put out on the street. Like that's what he gets. He doesn't get, oh, you're not okay. Oh, we're so sorry. Here's some money. Here's some help. No. What are you going to do about your situation? How are you going to handle this? Women don't face that unless they have ordered their lives in the way that a man does around taking responsibility for everything. Right? And even in that instance, even women who do that will receive more compassion unsolicited than a man will get, even if he begs for compassion. And if he does, people will treat him like a wimp for it. And the way men are raised as boys, they feel bad about receiving compassion. It's a failure if people feel like you need help and they're sorry for you. And I guess the best way that I can communicate this is I finally, after it's been out for how long, finally sat down with my husband and watched a few seasons of Breaking Bad, and watched, a male character experience that, and I'm like, it clicked. Every guy in my life, when they've gone through something, when my dad had to take time off for a back surgery for a herniated disc that had been damaged 25 years earlier, and he was driven to go back to work before the doctor said he could, and it really was not good for him. And when he had his first heart attack, he treated it like the flu, and he went out and worked. And Dad, what he was doing at that point, he was retired from teaching, so he wasn't sitting behind a desk in a classroom helping students understand English. He went out in the rain and the cold onto the sidelines of, I think, a football field, and photographed a game so that he could get the pictures that somebody paid him to get of their kid for 2 or 3 hours. And then came home and made sure that the stuff was organized and that the individual that paid him would have their pictures. And went to sleep, woke up, didn't feel any better, took aspirin, started to feel a little better, and then said, oh, I gotta go to the hospital. Like, that's what happens when a man gets sick. They're so driven to do what they're supposed to do, get their work done, take care of their family, provide, and be reliable, be dependable, that they'll have heart attacks and strokes and work with pain from injuries. I watched a guy on our football team when I was growing up get up and walk off of the field when nobody was home inside his head. He was completely unconscious, and it had been drilled into him. You do not lay on the field. You get up and you come over to the sideline to deal with the injury. And I don't know if you've ever looked into the eyes of somebody who was standing up while they were unconscious. It is spooky. But he did. He got up. He walked over to the line. As soon as his toes touched the line, he collapsed. Just completely collapsed. It was like the most uncanny thing, and something I've never seen a girl do, ever. But I've seen guys do it. I've seen guys stay standing in fights when they've been injured that badly. When they've got, as soon as the other person gives, then they'll collapse. Men face that when they're injured, or when they're sick, or when they're dealing with a mental health condition. And yet we hear about how hard women have it.
Yep.
Right? Woman, even at its hardest, is, in comparison to masculinity, life on easy mode.
Mm-hmm.
Brian,
Mm-hmm.
I could have sworn. Tell me if I'm misremembering this or not. At one point, didn't you have cancer?
Yes, I mean, I have to go back for regular
You did.
checkups. I did. Yes, and
I'm just saying, because after watching this video, I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, I know. Very interesting. Did you?
Well, now you know. You're a woman, Brian.
Oh, I guess so. I'd like you to call
Damn,
me.
must be.
I guess that's how it works.
Call me
No
Betty
other
now.
explanation.
Yep. But I do want to say that, okay, so this is a PBS thing, so not completely illegitimate, this video that we watched. And they put a little blurb at the bottom that I want to read. So they say, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cancer has been one of the top 2 leading causes of death in the United States for 75 years. A recent international study revealed the unique challenges women with cancer can face that make it harder to overcome the disease. What are the highest death rates? Like, if let's say that men and women both get cancer, right? I looked up what the top killers of men are, and they're pretty similar to the top killers for women. Things like heart disease. I think that's always number one.
Heart disease is
number one. And then there's like cancer, chronic lower respiratory diseases. And then you get into stuff that's a little bit different between men and women, like workplace deaths, suicide. That the men are winning at those things, right? Diabetes is another one, you know. So what they're doing, this is why I picked this story, because this goes back to what we've been saying on the show about looking at the situation for men before you start saying this is how bad women have it. Yes, cancer is not a joke, and it's bad. But let's be real for a second here. Men and women can both catch it, but women have way more funding for it, way more support for it. And I know that feminists will say, well, it's because men don't ask for it or whatever. But that's not the reason. Like, women aren't necessarily asking for anything. We do, you know, like we put like a pink ribbon on the football players' uniforms, and we go out, what month is it when they do the breast cancer awareness thing? You know how much money these women-oriented, like, you know, drives are, these GMOs, whatever you want to call it? They make billions of dollars. How much of it actually goes to women who need it, though? It's another good question to ask.
It goes to awareness. We got to make people aware.
Oh, it makes people aware. That's right. So, I mean, like, I've talked about testicular cancer, which is the one I had. I had a gentleman on that is a specialist in the area, and I asked him, like, you know, how much funding, because testicular cancer, kind of unique to men. I don't know if you know, like, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, but I think men have testicles. And there is a female version called ovarian cancer. That's a thing, too, that I think is unique to women. But I asked him about male cancers and whether or not they get the same attention that, say, breast cancer does. And by the way, men can also get breast cancer, too. But when they are pushing for this stuff, the awareness and everything, it's only centered on women. Women get way more than men, and yet we're all supposed to pretend like, you know, that's not happening, and that women are actually more affected by this. So I don't know, just saying, like, whenever they tell you, especially when they make a claim like this is especially a problem for women, ask them if they've looked at the situation for men as a point of comparison, and if they try to tell you that it's unique, figure out in what ways in what way are they fudging the numbers? Because we know that when it comes to things like funding and policy and authority, we are generally going to look out for women first. So, anybody else have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just want to point out one thing. When I searched on Google for the top causes of death for women, and as a side note, by the way, feminists frequently lie about this. They will tell you that the biggest cause of death for women is being murdered by their partners. Well, heart disease is actually the top cause. So the fat acceptance movement is actually more dangerous to women than men are. Just saying. And I got the statistics from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office on women's health. So I thought, well, I want to get the same equal, the information from the same source, so that it doesn't have any, like, some other source might calculate it differently and all that. Well, unfortunately, there is no office on men's health. It doesn't exist.
Curious that.
Point made.
True. All right. Any other thoughts on this before we move on? Okay, we're going to move on to the next story. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I look forward to seeing your thoughts on this story. So, okay, here we go. This is the last story. And I do have a little...
Do you think we should put up a little disclaimer here?
I do. Yeah. You might, like, if there are any children around or present, you might not want them to see this. This involves...
Or if you've recently...
Or if you're
eaten.
If you're eating.
Yeah. If you're eating something or whatever, you might want to, like, brace yourself.
Come back in like an hour.
I always find that amusing, because I had somebody send me one of those Kermit the Frog reacts to 2 girls 1 cup, and it had 2 girls 1 cup, and I sat there and watched it and ate chunky peanut butter out of the jar while I was watching it and was not affected.
Did you dare yourself to do that?
No, I just didn't think about it because of all the, like, I learned to separate those things after a few years of nursing home work.
Oh, well, that'll...
What I like to tell myself is that in 2 girls 1 cup, it was also peanut butter ice cream. They just shoved a bunch of ice cream up a chick's ass, and then she shat it out.
It was still in her ass. That's
what I tell myself. To this day.
It was still in her ass first. Sorry, but yeah. But the thing is, like, you get used to it, right? When you clean up a person who has had flu and who is immobile and who has had every orifice giving out fluids, and then you go straight to lunch afterward, you get used to it.
So this was your
grossed
warning.
me out. This still grossed me out.
Yeah, this is your warning. I never saw 2 girls 1 cup, and I am just fine with that.
It was dumb. It was just dumb.
Well, I imagine.
Passed the Bechdel test, by the way.
You can just... Yeah.
Yes, it did.
It does pass the Bechdel test. Okay, but anyway. So there is a video. I think this is like the promotion or the ad for it. Do you guys want me to play the video? We should probably play the video. Let's get the context. I'm going to share this really quick. Yeah, I know. Join me in here. I assume it's going to be short. And so let me read this and then I'll play it, okay? In the weird news that no one wanted to know about, but we're going to tell you anyway, Twitch streamer Amouranth announced a partnership with a European beer company to make beer using her vaginal yeast. She said that, I'm actually working with a beverage company. It's not my own. I'm still doing that project. There's a beer company. They're European. They want me to send my vaginal yeast. She candidly revealed while speaking about the Polish brewery, the Order of Yoni. Yoni. I get it. Like basically a pap smear myself. They want to make beer using my vaginal yeast, like the same profile, I guess. On the Order of Yoni's website, they call the brew Women Essence and have used other women's yeast to make brews. So apparently this is like a thing they do. I thought Poland was based. What happened? They describe the brew as, quote, imagine an extremely sensual image of femininity which has often appeared in the wildest of fantasies. Reach out for a bottle filled with a golden beverage replete with female essence. Give yourself up to your instincts and enjoy the intimacy of an extraordinary model. The Order of Yoni is a sensual experience in the form of a beer enclosed in a bottle, obtaining its unusual flavor notes through the use of champagne yeast, wheat malts, and exclusive additives in the form of orange peel, coriander, and aphromomium. The composition is enhanced with the use of a lactic acid from vaginal bacteria to bring pleasure to every sip.
Yeah, that's not yeast.
This is a fetish thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it is.
I'm not going to hear anything to the contrary. This is a fetish thing.
All right, let me play this. I don't know. This is I don't even know. Is this a video? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
20,000, 30,000,
Let me go back a little bit.
20,000,
It's 20 seconds. Not that bad.
30,000, 40,000, 50,000.
This is how much these bitches get paid.
60,000, $70,000.
You could buy a house in Dayton for that and have money left over.
Who are you? I thought the money was fake too. 10,000.
Oh, well, that's just her counting the money, I guess. 70,000 in cash.
This is something of a learning experience for me, I think, because I was under the impression that yeast is an unusual and unwanted condition in a vagina. Like it's not something.
Biology lesson. So you like, and I'm gonna say this in as nice terms as I can. You're not an individual. All right, you're an ecosystem. You have a thriving population of bacteria on and in every part of your body. It's in your eyes, it's on your skin, it's inside your genitalia, it's inside your ass, it's inside your you wouldn't be able to digest your food if you didn't have the right bacteria in your gut, in your lower gut, and in your bowels. You would be in deep, well, you wouldn't have any shit. You would have a mess in there of food and acid. And then you also have, in addition to bacterial flora, you have, I guess that we should be calling that fauna, but we always call it flora. You also have yeast and some other fungi that live in and on you, technically from the fungal kingdom. And when one or the other of those goes where it's not supposed to go, or overbreeds because the other populations have been decimated by something, like you took a shitload of antibiotics, or you have encountered somebody else's flora that your body doesn't have an immune reaction to, or from an animal. You can get it from like cats and dogs and stuff. You get an infection. So similar types of fungi that affect you are the vaginal yeast, jock itch, ringworm, and athlete's foot. They're all like really, really pretty much the same thing. And the same chemicals kill them all. And if you get rid of all of the yeast, every last little microbe of yeast in a woman's vagina, she will get a bacterial infection. Because there won't be anything to keep the bacteria in there in check. Mm-hmm. But if you get rid of every last little bit of bacteria in a woman's vagina, she will get a yeast infection. So a lot of women, if they use antibiotics when they're not sick, or they don't need them, or they use a really strong antibiotic or something like that, will get a yeast infection. And if you take antibiotics too much, a lot, you get an infection called C. diff, where a bad bacteria in your system gets a foothold and causes problems because the good bacteria in your gut has been killed off, and that's all that's left, and it actually can kill you. And the cure for that's really kind of weird. They figured out they can take bacteria from a family member's poop and transplant it into your system and fix it. But to bring it back around to the vaginal thing, remember what I said. If you get somebody else's, you got staph bacteria all over your skin. If you get somebody else's staph on you, you can get an infection from it. It can cause some very serious problems. Similarly, your yeast and your other microbes, your other fungal microbes in your system that are not causing infections on your body can be infectious to other people's bodies, right? And that, to me, that's what makes it gross. And the other thing is they're talking about lactic acid. All right, I just want to point out, when you go to the gym and you work out and you up your workout a little bit, you decide you're going to lift more or you're going to do more reps or whatever, and you really, you walk out, and maybe your muscles feel like rubber, and you know you're going to be sore the next day. The reason that you are sore is that you've had lactic acid build up in your muscles, and that did some tear down, and your body is rebuilding that. And you do that on purpose if you're trying to bulk up or you're trying to increase your endurance and so on, because you'll build more muscle in response to that. But it's still, you can really injure yourself doing that too. You can cause yourself, especially as you get older, you can cause yourself enough pain to disable yourself for a day. And I've done that, right? So it's gross to me because it's not gross to me because, ooh, vaginal microbes. Everybody has those. If you've ever gone down on somebody, you've had a taste of them. That's one of the reasons why I say don't do that, at least not without a dental dam. But the other end of it is, this is a level of worship of something, like, there's nothing special about an individual's microbes. There's nothing about it'd be like taking a scrape of the staph infection off of your skin. Well, it's not an infection on your skin unless it gets out of control, but it'd be like taking your staph and going, oh, this staph came from this famous person. We're going to use it to do something and make everybody, touch it and take it. No, it's still bacteria. It's still an infection if it gets out of control. Like, can we stop worshiping things that are ordinary, everyday, routine, normal things that we just have to keep in balance and under control just because they're on a woman?
Yep.
Like, can we stop doing that? Women are not gods.
All right, so it's not like it's something a vagina produces en masse as a matter of course, like boobs producing milk. It's not like vaginas are just constantly churning out these buckets of yeast.
No, they're breeding in there.
It only principally exists en masse in conditions of poor hygiene. And even then, in quite small amounts. To make a substantial amount of beer, you need like a jolly good handful of yeast, like dried yeast. So the obvious question is just how much beer is going to be brewed from this vaginal yeast, and exactly what kind of Black Forest ecosystem is she planning to grow down there, so as to produce such an industrial amount of it. I mean,
yeast kind of reproduce by itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's possible you could analyze a small amount of the yeast and reproduce it in a lab. So yeah, you don't need a 24-hour-a-day workforce of specially trained yeast elves just to harvest the stuff. But in any case, I don't see why you would. It's not an economically viable model, and even if it was, it would not be safe to be producing or reproducing any kind of bacteria under laboratory conditions. Not if you're making yeast bacteria, not if you're making lab meat. It's all rather disgusting, and I don't want to think about it. And in any case, something tells me this isn't true. Guys, I have an inkling. It's the weirdest suspicion that this whole thing is just
unfortunately real.
It's real.
It could just be a bullshit publicity stunt to get people talking about this degenerate attention seeker. And if that's the case, it does seem to be working, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's real. And it's not she's not the first woman who's done this. There's a whole company that's built around this stupid practice.
That's right.
And like I said, there's nothing special about vaginal yeast. It's the same microbe that causes ringworm, jock itch, and athlete's foot. It's not special.
It's possible that they're lying and to like sell the product, but the point is that they've created the product and that there probably will be people that buy the product. Remember when I mentioned Belle Delphine at the beginning? She was selling her bathwater, and
wasn't there a woman selling her farts?
What?
There was a woman selling her farts.
Yeah.
You know,
And people were buying
and
it.
this woman, what did she do that somebody sent her
No.
$70,000? She looked hot on screen doing something that she probably doesn't do as well as a man. It's just that she looks hot doing it, right? That's the point.
Who? The Amouranth?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know she's like a cosplayer or whatever, and she's probably got some OnlyFans shit out there. But I think that
so she doesn't play video games or anything like that.
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. Honestly, I don't watch her, but
I just know she's like famous for being banned a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, she's been banned a bunch of times. She's
famous for being an attention whore.
She's an attention whore, basically. Yes.
Oh, men do that better too. I mean, have you ever watched old school drag? Not modern, but old school drag. Like,
I guess. I mean, I don't.
Men do that better too.
That I'm sure they do. You know what? What's really good
Hannah.
is when somebody's got talent. Like, if there's a ventriloquist doing something, or a guy doing magic tricks, or a juggler, I will watch that. A one-man band, I find that impressive. You know, like that's the kind of stuff that I want to see.
Yeah.
But I think
you get people doing drag that have talent, but they don't have more talent than like your average performer.
Right.
Right. But they do have talent also at looking like that. They basically cosplayed female characters. You know, like it was popular to cosplay Gypsy Rose Lee or cosplay Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz, or if they're older, Auntie Mame. Like there's different things. I've seen different, and it's fun, and it is very attention seeking, and they do it well in a way that makes it fun to pay attention to them, and it's not like these women exploit an instinct, right? Where, and I'm not talking about gynocentrism, I'm talking about the mating instinct, which, gynocentrism exploits that instinct as well, but it creates an environment in which if a guy is both lonely and weak, or has been raised to be overly gynocentric, which is more than zero in my opinion, then they're going to do shit like this. They're going to give somebody enough money to buy a house in Dayton and have money left over, and then I don't know how rich the person was that did that, but they're going to get nothing for it except a look. They'll give you the doe-eyed, cute face look. Like, oh, how wonderful! I got this money. Or the bitch looking at the screen going, "Who are you? Like, how about thanks? Like, don't send me $70,000, okay? But if somebody did, I would be in tears, thanking them, especially if I didn't have a way of sending it back, or didn't like saying I can't take this. But there would be my only response for quite some time would be gratitude if it is, something like that happened, especially if all I did to earn it was look cute on screen.
Yeah.
Like that would blow my mind. I wouldn't expect it, and I would feel weird about it. And like I said, I don't want anybody to do that. If you're going to send that kind of money to anybody, send it to Honey Badger Radio, and then let us use it to like donate to causes and stuff, and run the shows and everything. But yeah, this blows my mind that I've seen that kind of behavior before. I've been offered money by guys that don't even have money, and had to say, I earn what I use. I don't like to do that. You use what you earn, and I will earn what I use, and then we'll be happy and we can be friends. If you're going to start doing this, I can't talk to you anymore. And it just blows my mind that as you get smart enough to become rich enough to hand out $70,000 and be okay with it, that you're not too smart to do something like that. and like that's exploitative. Where I think drag isn't. I think that people who go to see, like, and I differentiate between modern and old school because a lot of modern drag is just a stripper show.
Yeah.
Which is, it's actually, I think, demeaning to the people who are performing. But old school drag involved singing and dancing and show tunes and fun stuff and the performances that mimicked various movie characters and parts from plays that were popular and stuff like that. And it was fun. It was interesting, and it did take talent and skill and an understanding of how to entertain your audience and how to mesmerize an audience and stuff like that. But I just have no respect for this, and it does disgust me. The idea that there's going to be people that are going to get so excited about this, and it's.
Well, I guess
when
we'll see
you
how
hear
well it
about
sells. Yeah.
when you hear about gluttony and lust and greed and those types of things as debauchery, like this takes the cake. As when I posted about this, when I first heard about it, I quoted a Bible verse, or the first half of a Bible verse, where Jesus says, "Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man," and here's this OnlyFans model. Hold my beer.
Yeah. Oh, no pun intended. And
Pun intended.
if you like, you're gonna. I guess the problem is that too many men worship women like this. Like, there's too much of this simping. It's got to stop. You quoted Jesus. I just had this thought. Like, there was nobody ever tried to make a drink from Jesus's smegma. So let's keep it that way. and also,
Yeah.
I'm sure the World Economic Forum is taking notes. Oh, this might pair well with bugs. So that's gonna be a hard pass for me. So I got some super chows, and then I got to wrap up the show because it's almost time for me to go pick up Lindsay. But I will be doing a patron-only show when I get back. So Plain Dane gives us a super chow. Thank you so much, Plain Dane. And he says for $5, it's like Candida. We all have it, but when it becomes imbalanced, it becomes a bad thing. Candida actually assists with our decomposing when we die. Well, thank you for that bit of trivia. Let me move this over here. And then I got another super chow. Just got to find it here. It's from Plain Dane. And he says lactic acid. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Lactic acid for $5. Lactic acid doesn't cause micro tears in your muscle. Exercise makes micro tears. Lactic acid is the breakdown of glycogen stored in your muscle in the absence of oxygen. Thank you, Plain Dane. And then I got another one from Richard Bier, and he gives us $5 and says, Limburger cheese is made using a bacteria that is related to the bacteria that causes foot odor. This is all very interesting.
Well, that's probably why it
trivia.
smells so bad.
Yeah, it's probably why Limburger stinks. And I think that's it. I don't think I missed anybody. So, yeah, it looks good. Thanks, guys, for all of your kind donations and contributions and commentary. Really appreciate it. Really helps us out. So I guess now we're gonna... Well, I'm gonna go pick up Lindsay, and when I come back at 7:30, so like in an hour, we're gonna be doing the patron show. So, or no, 7:30 because Lindsay gets out of work at 7. So please join us in the patron show where we're gonna be looking at this article and talking about the South Park episode, or I keep saying episode, but it's like a little movie, right? It's like a special. It's like 45 minutes long.
Special is a good word.
Yeah, a special, right? Yeah, so it's called Into the Panderverse, and we'll talk about that a little bit if anybody here has seen it, and also this Breitbart article and some of the other rumors that have been going around regarding like Disney management and Gina Carano's response and Kathleen Kennedy's response. So please consider joining us in the patron show. And to do that, you have to become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to participate in all of the additional content. There's also movie nights, game nights, writers' rooms, all kinds of stuff going on. So I hope I will see you guys there. And thanks so much for coming on the show. So if you like this video, please smash like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. Give me some cool doges in the chat. Oh, I got another super chow right at the last minute. Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, there was that one interview with Tristan Tate where he claimed to have tried to stop a simp from excessive contributing, but when he contacted a different girl, he then said to take that man for everything that he had to give, if not everything that he had. Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes that's the only way people learn. I don't want it to be that way, but it's just like I said, sometimes there has to be pain. So, anyway, thank you, Richard.
It's like when you, and I can say this from experience, it's like when you cut off an addict and you stop paying their bills so that they don't have any extra money. And they either become homeless, and then you can take them to rehab, or they start paying their own bills. Yeah. And then they can stop buying the thing that they're addicted to. And it's a rough choice, but tough love is tough love. And sometimes you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, if you like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thanks, guys, so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.